Hello everyone, my collection development presentation is called Eat Your Heart Out, Collection Development Trends in the Romance Genre. So understanding the genre I picked, I chose adult romance novels. So for the sake of this presentation, I will not be discussing anything young adult or younger than that, although young adult romance is often considered in the romance genre in the Romance Writers of America. This is only adult. So, according to the Romance Writers of America, a romance novel is defined by only two things. One, that the main story is about a romance between two characters, and that is the essential plot, and there could be as many subplots as the writer wants, but the romance should be the main plot. And two, there must be a happy ending amongst those two characters, and they must end up together. So if a book ends up where they do not end up together, it is open-ended, it is meant to be sad or teach you a lesson, that is not considered a romance according to these two rules. Now, in 2016, romance novels made up 23% of the entire US book market being purchased, second only to general fiction. So if you're looking at genres, romance is the largest genre being purchased. So that should give you an idea of how popular romance is despite what other people may think of it, or what you may think of it, or what libraries may think of it. It is the best-selling genre overall. And that is before we get into libraries, but overall it is the best-selling genre in America. And it is a multi-billion-dollar company. So romance as a genre is a very, very large and general genre. And so you will see in the market and in libraries, it is often broken into subgenres, especially since specific genres cater to other people and certain people's tastes. So according to the Romance Writers of America, the main subgenres are contemporary, so modern day, completely non-magical, nothing different. Historical, which is obviously anything historical. In another article, they broke that down into Regency, which is also a very popular subgenre of historical. Paranormal, spiritual slash Christian slash religious, erotica, and romantic suspense. So while a good collection developer should not be biased when, or use their bias when they are purchasing books and developing their collection, unfortunately bias is still there and it still shows up. So in my research, I discovered that there are still many varied opinions on romance novels. While many librarians wrote articles in favor of romance novels and creating and growing the library's romance collections, they have to defend it because there were so many negative views of romance for such a long time, and many people still hold on to those. You probably have heard, if not thought yourself, that romance novels are considered trashy paperbacks, the kind you get at a gas station and something that your moms read. And I know when I was a kid, I probably thought that too. It is often considered scorned literature. According to the Romance Writers of America, around 83% of the readers are women, and most of the writers are also women. So it is content created by women for women. And unfortunately, things created by women and for women are oftentimes considered less than, which is why we come up with phrases such as chick lit, but we don't have a phrase for men's literature because we consider that normal fiction. From a feminist standpoint, there has been criticism that romance novels put too much focus on a woman finding a man because the majority of popular romance novels are about heterosexual relationships, so they think it puts too much focus on being with a man or being submissive. Although it has been stated that in recent years, romance novels have definitely made a shift, even historical ones, towards more independent and less passive heroines. As I stated before, we know that romance novels are very popular amongst the general book market, but do they circulate? According to a couple different studies I found, one which was taken from directors all across America, over 1,000 directors were asked, do they believe romance are high circulating and popular? 53% of them agreed that they were, and 31% strongly agreed that they were. So that is over 80% of library directors agreeing that romance is very popular, despite however they may feel about it. In another Missouri study, same question, 42% agreed that it is a highly circulating popular genre, and 42% strongly agreed. So again, over 80% agreed that it is one of their most popular circulation. In one study or one library, the librarian said that despite it only making up 35% of their collection, it made for over 43% of their circulation at their library alone. So yeah, they're still popular and they are definitely getting checked out at the library. So in the most thorough survey of romance collection developments that I could find, it was a study of over 1,000 libraries just on their romance collections. And they self-identified as urban, suburban, and rural libraries. And on average, urban libraries had 5,066 romance novels, suburban libraries had 3,966, and rural had 2,971. Now, they did not state the number of the overall collection of these libraries, so we cannot know the percentage of this collection, but it was clear that all the libraries at least make some sort of effort to purposely collect romance novels as a genre and not just a few books and put them in fiction. So of the libraries in this study, 43% of them had 8 or more different subgenres. Only 7% did not collect any subgenres, but most of them did. Urban libraries are more likely to have larger collections of subgenres than rural, but they also had larger collections of romance novels in general. Historical and Regency novels were by far the most popular at all the libraries at 89%. Suspense was actually second, which is 84%, and inspirational, which I was surprised at, is 83% of libraries have collections of that. It was noted that rural libraries are more likely to have more inspirational books than suspense books, and that could be because of the culture of the rural libraries, if they're more religious, but that is definitely up for speculation. So while people often think of romance novels being published in paperback, hardcover books were still the largest part of all the collections. Paperback was second, audio was third, and other, which was up to interpretation to the libraries, but that often included ebooks, was last. Although I think considering other genres in libraries, I almost never see paperbacks except for romance. So I'm sure if you compare that, it's still a lot of paperbacks for one genre. So of these collections and of these libraries in the study, 84% received their collections through purchases and donations, 13% only purchased their books, and another 13% only received donations. 12% of them spent less than 1% of their budget, 20% spent 1 to 2, 23% spent over 3%, and 9% did not allocate money at all. So overall, it seems around 3% or less of the budgets were spent specifically on romance novels. So some collection development tools that were stated that librarians use are Romantic Times, Library Journal, Book Lists, Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, Romance Writers of America annual meeting, ALA conferences, of course, that amazing networking, and of course, patrons. Patrons love romance novels clearly in the market and they are highly circulating. So many libraries depend on patrons on what is popular because many large, while I did name some large reviewers, don't always have large amounts of romance books reviewed. So sometimes you do need to get those from conferences and networking and patrons. In conclusion, romance novels are in right now, and they've always been in, and they are continuing to grow as a genre. As future collection developers, possibly, I don't know about all of you, we need to keep in mind what the patrons want, and there is a very high demand in romance novels, and as I said, that's continuing to grow. So we need to find new ways to review them and find out what patrons need. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you learned something new.